I'm Laura Bonnell, and this is the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast coming to you from Detroit. Please subscribe and even rate and comment on our podcasts when it moves you. I learn something new with every podcast, and I'm always inspired by the people that are showcased here. We don't give medical advice. You need to connect with your doctor for that. I hope that this Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast educates you and sparks some volunteering or advocacy. The CF community needs people like you. Thanks to our sponsors, Viatris and Vertex, for their support. Maureen Monte and I, we go back a long way. When she was an engineer and also doing photography, she photographed our Portraits of Cystic Fibrosis black and white calendar in 2003. The wives of the Detroit Tigers, pretty much all of them who were pregnant, played in our first celebrity softball game, while their husbands, the players, actually watched. And they played against law enforcement at a ballpark in Sterling Heights. So it was such a great day and a wonderful thing that she did, donating her time and taking these gorgeous pictures, which I still have, and I know the Detroit Tiger families also have them as well. Since then, I've appreciated everything that Maureen does, but who is she? Years ago, when she was working at IBM, she was an Engineer of the Year. She was a multi-sport athlete and MVP of her basketball team. Maureen is an author, and her first book, Destination Unstoppable, is fabulous. It talks about how to be a successful team. And as Maureen knows, as I've told her for years, if she could get in the room with the Detroit Lions, they would get to the Super Bowl and probably win. Her second book is called Win Like a Girl, and at her speaking engagement, she talks about the framework needed to help coaches and parents develop powerful girls who overcome adversity and expand their comfort zone. And she talks about girls having self-confidence or their lack of self-confidence, and we talk about that and relate it to the world of cystic fibrosis as well. And Maureen, welcome to the podcast. It's so fun to be able to do this interview with you, not on WWJ or somewhere else. We've been together for a long time. We've been friends for a long time. So this is great.
It is great. Thank you. It's an honor. And you've done such great work for cystic fibrosis in the community. And I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Well, thank you. And let's just start with how you're doing, how your journey's going, and just how life is going for you.
Well, it was better before I got hit by a car while riding my bike.
Yeah, that is...
I'm still dealing with a concussion, sort of lingering concussion symptoms. So I may get stuck with my words. Doesn't matter. They'll come out at some point. And, I tire easily, noise. But overall, every day I say to myself, it's a good day to be alive, right? And it could have been a lot worse. So I'm really very, very grateful, all things considered. So,
and I'm so glad, but just briefly, how long ago was it and kind of what happened?
It was the day after my book launch party for Win Like a Girl, right? And I had some of the girls and their parents that were in it, right? So it was very small. I make it sound like it's a big to-do. There were, 25 people. Which considering a book launch party, that doesn't sound like... Anyhow, the next day, and we're in Michigan, the next day it was 65 degrees, and that was the 15th of November, and the 16th of November it was 65. I'm like, you know what, I'm hopping on. Since COVID, my routine has been to bike daily, even in winter if I can, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's not slippery, and today's cold, but it's okay to bike on today, right? So I thought, I'll take advantage of it. And I was riding down a street, and Berkeley's a little town with little roads, and it's not like I wouldn't ride on some of the crazy streets. And long story short, I assume, my theory has become, assume they don't stop. Okay, assume that someone coming to a stop sign is not going to stop, because I've seen so many. I think I hit miles 6,800 before I got hit by the car.
Wow.
I've biked a lot, and I've seen a lot, right? And so I assume they don't stop. Well, this guy in his SUV, I'm riding down a road like this, and he pulls up. He's got a stop sign, and he stops. And I don't know if he was fiddling with his phone and looked up and took off, but right when I pulled in front of him, he hit the gas and ran right into me.
Oh, my gosh.
So I did a 180 on my bike. I'm now facing the other direction. I was so mad. My bike seat was turned 90 degrees, and I ended up with a whiplash concussion. But how I didn't have broken bones, because I was smashed to the ground. And had to go to the hospital, CAT scans, all that stuff. So the good news is it wasn't worse. The bad news is I was already struggling. I'm already compromised with epilepsy from 2 previous head injuries, right? So it's just going to take me longer, right? So I need to be patient. But I think I'm getting better. But there are days when I'm just exhausted. And I feel bad because by the end of the day, I'm socially incapable, right? I just can't take another sound, another conversation. I just can't do it, right? So that's been a little bit hard. But overall, all things are good. The book's doing well. The work I'm doing with people of all ages on improving their confidence, which is what the book is about, I really like it. So there's so many good things, right? So I need to focus on it.
Fabulous, but terrifying as well.
The weirdest part, and it's the flashback you get for me, wasn't the hit. In fact, I don't even remember it, which may mean that I lost consciousness at the time. What I remember is the hood of the car, like an inch from my nose, thinking, I'm about to get hit by an SUV and there is nothing I can do about it. The fact there's nothing I could do about it was the thing screaming in my brain, basically, right? I woke up, I'm on the ground, right? So he was ticketed, not that that means anything.
Wow. Well, I am glad you're okay.
Thank you.
And it's really scary. And I know you always wear a helmet, but we might as well do a public service announcement for helmets.
Yep.
Because that is a smart thing to do.
Yeah. And what I learned, because I was like, well, how can I have a concussion if I have a helmet on? And my helmet is dented, although not like smushed, right? But what I learned is the helmet prevents you from cracking your skull open, which is a good thing.
Right.
But it doesn't prevent a concussion. Hence the people that get hurt in the NFL and the NHL, right? They're wearing helmets.
Yeah.
But there still is a whiplash component of it, a smashing your brain around. And that just simply doesn't serve you well, right, when that happens. So you just have to be patient.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're doing well and you have that mindset and that you're getting better.
I am.
And I like that you're wearing your Win Like a Girl jacket.
I laugh. I have Win Like a Girl embroidered on like coats and vests and sweatshirts and whatever. So I wear it a lot.
Yeah. Are you selling your merchandise? I want one.
One of the things that's a little bit delayed is some of the marketing I would like to have done with Win Like a Girl. I've never done a press release, right? And or getting like a merch out there, right? Because I printed like 13 sweatshirts, which of course are gone, right?
Right.
I need to do that. Yes. Thank you for that encouragement. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that would be terrific. And actually my wheels are spinning now of how we can relate it even to CF or something, whatever.
Sure.
But yeah. We'll think on it.
All right. We'll noodle on that.
We're good at brainstorming together.
Yes, we are. We're quite the team.
Yeah, we are. And then in the introduction, I talk about the foundation and that even though you were an engineer at the time, you were doing beautiful photography and then you photographed this game. And I wondered, do you remember who introduced us or how I heard about you at the time? Because I was racking my brain to try and think of how we connected.
I suspect it was Celia Bobrowski. Does that name?
Yes, totally.
Because she was the head of public stuff with the Tigers. And so that's how that all started, right? And I'm still in touch with her. She's delightful.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit in touch with her. Like I see her on Facebook still. And she's terrific.
Yeah,
terrific. She is great.
One of the kindest souls in the history. If I could ever be so kind as Celia, that would be a victory for mankind.
She is great. And when I was a news reporter at WWJ, we talked about and we did an interview about Destination Unstoppable. I have my book right here.
My first book. Yeah, look at you.
I loved it. I know you've done so much since then, but that was the beginning and it was kind of the strength finder and all of that. That's kind of how you got started to where you are today, right?
So in 2006, I stopped photography. So I had a career as an engineer. So at the end of the day, I'm a people problem solver. I've learned that I'm a people problem solver. And even taking photographs of people is solving people problems, right? How do we get them to engage, et cetera, et cetera. So my engineering tends to aim towards others. And in 2006, I earned my master's in leadership and business ethics. As part of that journey, I took the Strength Finder for the first time. And I was instantly hooked on how it nailed what I do well. But the other thing I could instantly see is if teams did this, I would no longer be frustrated that you don't do things the way I do things. I would see that actually There are things you do better than I do, and we put you in that role. We put me in the role of research or something like that, right? Because I may be frustrated that research doesn't matter to you, even though I know that's not true. I'm just making this up as we go along.
Right.
So I created a system for implementing Strength Finder and helping teams reach their full potential in the corporate world at IBM and in General Motors and some other places I worked. And then I did my first sports team, and I'm an athlete, had been an athlete. I personally believe sports success is life success. The journey of putting yourself out there, failing, teamwork, accepting coaching. Those are all skills that increasingly are difficult to find in young people, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And so the point was I worked with a high school boys hockey team and spent 2 hours and 45 minutes with them. We did the Strength Finder, which measured that internal rocket inside of them, right? Those internal motors. And there's a lot of horsepower inside of male athletes, I discovered. And then we did a trust bank, right? So everything you do with any team is either helping the team or hurting the team. There is no neutral act. So when you help the team, when you encourage someone, when you offer to support someone who's struggling with something, when you recognize contributions, even if they weren't like the winning goal, those are all deposits in the team trust bank. The money goes up then, right? The connections become stronger. And then I tell you you're the worst player ever and you've just lost the game for us, that is a withdrawal from the team trust bank, right? So we implemented that, a couple other things. And once they realized that their competitive nature was hurting their ability to win in the sense that they were competing with one another rather than competing against the team down the road, Country Day, Trenton, Houghton. And so once we aimed all that energy and strength, all the strengths they had at a view of success, which are championship behaviors, accepting coaching, brotherhood, full effort, discipline, then they won the next 10 of 11 games, outscored the competition 67 to 16 goals, and won the state championship 4-0. So it worked out really well. And that was fun, right? Mm-hmm. That was obviously fun. And I'm happy for them when they win. You know, it's fun to argue with the boys. I'll say to them, and I do this with almost all teams, I'll say, because we'll say, what does success look like? And they almost all say at the high school level, winning the state championship, right? Whether they have a chance in heck or not, it doesn't matter. That's what they want. I'm like, okay, so let's talk about championship behaviors. And then suddenly we shift from, yeah, we're going to win, but how do we behave to get there, right? But when we do win, which is great, they're thrilled. But I'll say to them, you know, actually winning the state championship doesn't change your life. And they'll argue with me about it. I'm like, it doesn't change your life. Did you get more money? Did you get to skip a grade? Did you get an A? Right? Your life didn't change. But creating a team that pursues in a unified way, like a pack of wolves after a goal, that will change your life. Using your strengths to be at your best and appreciating the strengths of the goalie over there that may be different from you, right? That will change your life. So that's kind of where that all went. Mm-hmm. And then I worked with my first female team and began to see a vastly different path to victory and different requirements to create a high-performing team. And that's when Like a Girl was born. And I wrote the book over 4 years, investing in a confidence, creating and then refining a confidence training framework for young women.
And I want to get to that too. But first, I wanted to ask you, one of the things that you pointed out with Destination Unstoppable, which I found enlightening, as you did as well, was discovering that, and even with my husband, I was like, we work differently. Who knew? Like, hello.
Who knew?
Thank God I figured that out.
All right.
We function differently, and it's just what I worry about, he doesn't give a thought to, and vice versa.
Right.
But
yes.
And my board of directors, everybody took the test there. And
remember?
Yes. And that was so eye-opening. We all have different strengths. We all work differently. That was so huge. That alone, just understanding that basic principle is incredible.
It is. And it's so important because we shift from, why can't you be like me?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to fix you to be like me, to you're different and I value that. If we took 10 people, we all went to the same movie, there are 10 different experiences of that movie. The movie's the movie.
Right.
The world's the world. Life is life. Right. But one person hates it, the next person thinks it's the greatest, that actor's terrible, I thought they were fabulous, whatever.
Right.
The music was great, the music stunk. It's one movie, but we all experience it differently, and we experience the world, teams, families, any aspect of life through the lens of our strengths. So when we know what those are, I can both use them and I can ask for what I need because of my strengths, right? I remember being futuristic, right? You have the Elon Musk strength. You are 500 years ahead of everybody else, right? So you need clarity on what the future looks like. I need clarity on the past, and that's true, right? I want to know where we came from. I'm not even interested in where we're going. Where did we come from? Right. Then we can talk about where we're going. So, but you can see how you and I would have a different point of view.
Well, and what I learned from the board too is I am always thinking about the future. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've got this idea. I am blah, 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 blah. And then everyone else is like, or not everyone else, but I mean, everybody has a different process. Okay, how are we going to make this happen? How are we going to organize? Or someone else is thinking it's not possible. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not possible? I thought of it. It's possible. We're doing it. Let's figure it out. But it was just like, okay, everybody thinks differently. And like you said, once I realized that, it was like, okay, so-and-so's strength is organization. She likes everything scheduled out, which I love and appreciate. And it helps me so much. But it was beautiful to figure out everyone's strengths because we are just this beautiful harmony now.
Good.
Everybody's got this. It just helps you work.
There's a lane people can work in and work well. And we all are running towards the same place, but we're going to do it differently, right? At a different speed, maybe a different route. But as long as we all get to the top of the mountain together, then we're good, right?
Right.
So, no, you're absolutely correct. And that's the win.
That is the win.
Actually, the journey is the destination because it never ends, right?
Right.
It never ends. So it's important we understand this journey aspect of it.
There's such growth in it.
And I'm still learning. And I've been doing it since 2006, right?
I know. And I appreciate it so much. I love the way you think. I just love the way you can bring everyone together. And I've always said, and I'm going to say it again, that if the Detroit Lions would bring you in, we'd be there. Super Bowl. But seriously, let's just talk a minute about the game. At the end, were you not screaming like, oh my gosh, they mentally, like what happened? You know better than me, but I was watching it and I was thinking of you because I thought something mentally obviously happened. They lost it.
So here's where it gets interesting. Mathematically and statistically, his decisions were solid. Okay?
Okay.
If you look at the data.
You're talking about the coach?
Yes.
Okay.
Dan Campbell, right? And I like the guy, right? Listen, it's the easiest thing for me to sit here and tell him what he should have done, right? Here's where I think that if I were to write about it, and I haven't done this yet, I would say math versus momentum. So what did they need at that moment? I think they needed momentum, okay? The team hadn't scored in the second half. So rather than swing for the fences, maybe a base hit would fire the guys up, get a little bit more, momentum, morale, juju, whatever you want to call it, right? So my question would have been, what did the team need at that moment? Did we need the home run, right, or grand slam, or did we need a base hit? I think a base hit would have carried them, would have served them well. Because now the fears start to creep in. Shoot, we missed the field goal, right? Or shoot, right? So that didn't work out. So then the doubt comes in. And the moment the fear and doubt happens in sports, and this is true in life, but I deal with a lot of athletes, your brain cannot operate in high performance because the fear part of the brain is different from the high performance part of the brain. And your brain, you are in one place or the other, you're never in both, right? So that's where I think maybe that would have been something to consider. What does the team need at this moment? No, you don't have 5 hours to press the pause button and say, what does the team need at this moment? What would be most helpful? But in reflection, I think some momentum would have served them well. Okay? And it is what it is. You can do everything right and still lose.
Right.
See, that's the challenge with sports and life in general. You can do everything right and it won't end the way you wanted it to end. So you have to control all the controllables, those things you can control, to get the desired outcome and let go of the desired outcome. Now, that doesn't mean you say, okay, well, we lost. Okay, never mind. That hurts when you've invested all that into it.
Mm-hmm.
But where it might be helpful, the Strength Finder and or perhaps my program would be to add another layer of connection between the guys. The coach would understand the kind of food that you need to eat, Laura, and the kind of food that I need to eat, right? You need that future. I do not need the future, right? So then we can feed people what they need to be at their best. So that's the end of that. And I really don't think they're going to call it. And I don't, I'd be happy to work with them on doing a heartbeat.
Right.
But I just don't think they will.
It would be incredible. It's my dream for you that I keep visualizing. So let's hope they give us a call.
Can you hear my lack of futuristic? I can't even, I don't see that. I don't see that. I see some things happening, but I don't see that happening. And the thing is, what I just did to myself is self-limiting, right?
Right.
I just limited it, where if I had you and my team, you'd be like, no, wait a second. I can see this happening, and I can see how we can make this happen. Now, if you show me that, and like we talk about the path, suddenly I see the path, I'm on board. I don't see the path like you see the path. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
It's a different strength. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's also interesting. So back to Win Like a Girl.
Yeah.
Tell me about the difference you saw between the girls and the boys team and strengths and all of that.
The first girls team that I worked with, I believe, was in Iowa through a coach I'd met at a conference. Basketball, 10th graders. The starting five were 10th graders, and they won a state championship. Now, that's pretty dang impressive, okay? Sophomores win a state championship in girls basketball. So I had their Strength Finder results, and I expected the boys have all this competition, which you can measure, right? That's one of the Strength Finder strengths, and I don't know what percentage, 18 out of 22 of the boys in the hockey team had it. On the girls' team, there was one girl with competition. One.
Wow.
And they won a state championship. There was all this harmony and empathy and positivity and includer and all these, what I call the human glue strengths. When the girls lose, unless they have competition, they're sad. The girl that had competition was livid. They hate, and the boys, when they lose, are livid, right? It is. They're mad. And there's a difference between sad and mad, right? I get over sad in like 30 seconds. In the bus ride home, we can sing. The boys don't sing in the bus ride home. If it's lost, So that was like the first, I was like, right? But what helped the girls understand the girl that was competitive, her name was Riley, is she needed space. If they lose, give her some space, okay? And that's so helpful to know, right?
Right.
So I then worked with more teams and more female teams and more boys teams. And then suddenly I'm realizing that not only do I not see competition like I see in boys, I see way more of what I call the emotional hard work and love. So the girls work hard if you love them, okay? They want the love. The boys work hard to win. And the way I describe it in the book, and Win Like a Girl, is the boys battle as a team to bond as a team. So think trench warfare, for lack of a better term. Suddenly the bombs are flying and you're like, this is hilarious because you're laughing with the guy next to you and you're about to die, right? But still, nonetheless, you're bonding through that, right? The girls bond as a team to battle as a team. So until those connections form, or if they are broken, they will underperform. So the most interesting thing to me was to see what the girls feared. And I would talk to athletes, what do you fear most about the season? Because if we don't talk about fear, it becomes this unspoken, big, titanic iceberg that's going to sink the team. And the boys fear not starting, the boys fear losing, the boys fear some of it's connection related, but not very much. The girls fear disappointing teammates, being yelled at by coaches, making a mistake in front of other people. They fear leaving their comfort zone. So I began to do confidence training for the girls, and then I also brought it to the boys as well. So I have observed how if a coach firmly corrects a girl, they hear, I don't like you. And that's not what the coach is saying. And it happens whether it's the coach is male or female. If they firmly correct you in the heat of a moment and a game is unfolding, the girls are crushed. The boys are not crushed. Now, they may not like it, but they're not crushed. And when I saw the Strength Finder results, it wasn't the lack of competition that concerned me about female athletes. there's a strength called self-assurance. That's self-confidence. The opposite of confidence is doubt. And I see a ton of self-doubt in young women and in female athletes. It's worse in boys since the pandemic.
Interesting.
Right? I think everybody the whole world has suffered, right? Let's just be clear.
Right.
But the data I have as of today is from 770, maybe 775 athletes, 775 female athletes. And if you operate under the premise that everybody says this, sport builds confidence. Sports builds confidence. That's why you should put your girls in it, right? Or boys. How many do you think out of 775 athletes, female athletes, how many do you think had self-confidence in their top 5 strength finder results?
Of the girls?
775. How many do you think?
Well, I would say 5 because I lived the life. Even as a woman, I just remember we were cleaning out our basement and I found this note that I sent to my favorite first grade teacher after winning an award for writing. And I said something like, well, why don't you like me? Because he made some comment like, something like that, like, hey, rethink the content or something. I don't even remember, but I just found it and I thought, wow, I thought my teacher didn't like me. He was my favorite first grade teacher.
See?
And I wrote him a note about what was wrong with me.
Wow. Look at that. What a great example.
Yeah.
That's why we need training when they're little, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not, in terms of the numbers, it's the perfect example. I love that. It's 15 out of 770,
wow.
But it's less than 2%.
Yeah, higher than I thought.
But it's still abysmally low.
Right. Oh, my gosh.
And way lower than the boys, way lower than professional women in the workplace. So that's why we need confidence training. And here's what I believe is at the root of it. And I think this is, if I do anything, I hope I can convince people to think about the difference between competence, I am good at something, and confidence, I'm willing to step outside my comfort zone. Or I don't need your approval, Laura, to feel good about myself. Because I can do everything right, and you may never approve of me. And if my self-worth depends on what you think of me, I've lost the war. You will crush my confidence.
Right.
You being anybody.
Huge. Yes.
Huge.
Huge for all of us.
For all of us. And I see it in the women in the workplace. I see it women in the executive ranks. Some men, some boys that are a little bit more sensitive, and you can see that in their strength finder result, but not many. So here we are. The good news is, When Like a Girl was born, started as nonfiction, became fiction.
Yay.
Because by switching to fiction, I could incorporate all the kinds of people I'd worked with, parents, athletes, coaches. It's all there, right? The good, the bad, and the ugly, frankly. And it's the team journey of a first-time coach figuring out that the fact that she isn't able to form relationships with her girls is why they will never give her what she wants, which is the best. And so she's forced to go back to her high school coach who didn't. It's a little bit of an emotional story of her having to face the reality of she may have been a great athlete, but she's a terrible coach, which she did not expect, okay? So long story short, they implement my 13 exercises, the confidence training framework that I have over the course of the season. And it transforms their experience. They invest in the trust bank. They focus on what does a great teammate look like? How do we behave as great teammates? How do we accept feedback? All feedback is good feedback, actually. He gave you good feedback.
Oh, it helped my career 20 years later.
So if you can even say all feedback is good feedback, right? And we all need this. When I was on TV recently for the Dan Campbell thing where I talked a little bit about him in a tiny, tiny, short little interview, I had a friend of mine who I adore, a corporate professional, who said to me, the next time you're on TV, you need to be more enthusiastic. I was like, okay, I hear a lot of things that I'm combative and that I cause problems and I'm disruptive with my ideation, et cetera. But I don't generally hear I'm not enthusiastic. I said, really? Well, I'll go back and look at that. Instead of saying, oh, you're nuts, right? Or being offended. I'm not offended. All feedback is good feedback. That was her feedback. So I said, I'm going to go back and look at it. And the next time I'm with her, we're just going to take a quick look at it and say, I want her to show me where I'm not, in her mind, because it's important I understand. It's her perspective.
Right.
If there may be value in me understanding where in her mind I didn't come across as enthusiastic.
But that's hard because it's what, like you said, though, you go to a movie and everybody sees it differently because when I watched it, I didn't see any lack of enthusiasm by you at all.
That's okay. But, think of the director of the movie. They do need to hear. They may decide to do nothing about it, okay? But they do need to understand why someone might walk out of a movie, right? So that's the point. It is to never take offense. Self-leadership is a big part of Win Like a Girl. You cannot control what happens to you. You can control everything after that. What comes out of your mouth, the decisions you make, the thought process you have after that. You can control everything else. So self-leadership is an internal journey with external results so that you manage the inside, the emotions, the feelings. You could even say in your head, oh, that's the dumbest blanking thing I've ever heard in my life. But that can't come out of your mouth.
Right.
And then you say, and you think, okay, what's the best thing? What's the best outcome here? The best outcome is for me to learn why. Ask for more information, right? In those circumstances. So self-leadership is a big part of this book. And I think that is an overlooked skill because if you, Laura, on your path to being a leader, anybody that wants to be a leader of any way, shape, or form, formal or informal leadership, if you can't lead yourself, no one will follow you.
Right.
You can't. No one will trust you, right? So I have a workshop tomorrow with a person and the leader. I'm starting to think I just simply cannot trust this person. So I'm going to go do the very best I can with the information I have, but not believing that what he's told me is true, because I've already been burned by him once. And tomorrow I think I'm going to get another lesson. But if I go in without any expectations of that and go in saying, I'm just going to go, it's a fact-finding mission. I'm going to do the best I can, and we'll help the best we can with the team. And then that's good enough. Your best is always good enough.
Right.
So that's the goal. And best is self-leadership, controlling the controllables. You can't control the outcome, but you can influence it. I can influence what happens tomorrow. And if I go in with this attitude of like, this is the most messed up team I've ever worked with in a long time, even if it's true, if that's my attitude, that's going to show. And that's not acceptable.
Right.
Right.
And I've learned that too with my board as far as I need to hear what they have to say. It's so important to hear different ideas or why someone thinks it won't work, just because it gives you different perspective. Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Right.
And it's always better.
It's always better.
Always better when you listen.
It is. They feel heard. They feel valued. And to your point, you may learn something. And what you've just done by listening to them, you're the leader. When leaders listen, they are allowing the people that work with them or for them to influence them. And that's where the real connections then for.
Yes, you're going to have to go into politics. I just, ding, ding, ding.
Oh, for God's sake, no.
They need some help. From
you need help, but I would make it worse.
From Lansing to D.C., Maureen Monte, please.
Gosh.
Take charge.
No.
Oh, my gosh. That would be such an incredible thing to see, though, if you could sit everybody together. Oh, my gosh. It could be comedy, but it would be beautiful. And I work with all of them and both sides and everything, but...
And God bless you for doing it.
It is an interesting...
It's a tough time in the world right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But tell me about, getting back to the book, you had a great example about Simone Biles and about confidence and girls' confidence, if you'd share that with us.
Absolutely. And this is, I think she's the perfect example because of the difference between competence and confidence and the impact of low confidence on someone's life. This interview that I included the link to in my book happened in August, and I finished writing the book like on September 27th. And it was live on Amazon on like October 1st or something. And I just caught it. I'm just so lucky I caught it somehow, either online or Twitter, or maybe I saw it on the news, but she had just won her 8th American national championship, United States national championship. And I think it was her 38th or 39th gold medal from the Olympics or World Championships or, whatever. And of course, she struggled at the Olympics, remember? She had a case of the twisties. Mm-hmm. Her family wasn't there. And I think that's a big clue, right? Because of COVID, her family wasn't there. And so here's what she said. The guy said to her, great job. And how's it feel? And she goes, oh, I feel so good. And she said, and my team believes in me, and my coach believes in me, and my fans believe in me, and my family believes in me. Maybe now I can start to believe in myself. She's 26. She has 39 gold medals. Really?
Right. It was just...
So that's the difference between competence and confidence. And it worries me when I hear that. And I think what she has learned, the great lesson for her, I think, from the Olympics is her self-worth does not matter what other people think of her, right? She could walk away and they should have no impact on her at all. Women struggle with that more. The female athlete profile struggles with that more than the male athlete profile, right? So this need for approval and then not having her family there, I think that really both those things. But she learned, I think, is cool. So she stopped focusing so far in the future and, this desire to be, if I don't continue to win, then nobody's going to like me. I love the fact that Venus Williams is still playing tennis. She's 43. She's playing in the pros. She's not ranked, but she plays because she loves to play. Her sister could never have had that. Her sister, I think, Serena was far more impacted by if she lost her ranking or if she didn't look good out there. She got heavier and she didn't play as well. Where Venus even if Venus looks like she doesn't belong out there, she's out there, right? Mm-hmm. She's not worried about, I don't look like the tennis player I once was. She's doing it because she loves it. And I think that takes way more courage than to be Serena, frankly, right? Yeah. I really do. I admire Venus a great deal. Yeah.
I like that thought, and it makes me think of so many things of the workplace, because I think it's also different there between women and men, confidence. And then if we can even touch on the CF community, because we're all trying to advocate and we're all trying to advocate, with legislators, or you're trying to advocate for your child, or your child is trying to advocate for themselves, right? So you do have to have a certain amount of confidence and a way to make the doctor, be they male or female, to understand. And then there's everybody sees it differently, or like,
right.
And one thing, I'm all over the place right now, but you'll bring us back to center in a minute. But one thing I've told parents who are advocating, call the doctor by their first name. I don't know if this is crazy or not, but it's kind of been my thing. Call them by their first name. And if they correct you and say it's doctor, then find another doctor. You've got the wrong person. If someone cares about the title. So It's just one of the many things that I give younger families, because if they tell me a doctor's not listening, then I'm like, switch doctors. Like, you don't have to stay at the same doctor. Go somewhere else. They're not hearing you. Get a different doctor, and things like that.
Well, and how challenging and I've done strength finder work with the medical community, right? And like many STEM people, and there's always people that break the rules, and those are the ones you want to look for. They are thinkers first, doers second, relationships third. Okay. Think of someone who writes software, or somebody that's, because they're in the mental problem solving business, and then physically solving your problem, right? Doing the best they can. And then the relationship, right? If at all, right?
Right.
And I hate to say it like that, but there are some I'm like, dude, you don't have 1 ounce of relationship. I am watching how you behave with your staff and me, okay? So the hard part is, in that field in general, that is kind of the hierarchy. And they are used to being the smartest people in the room. That is the know-it-all Olympics to some degree. Mm-hmm. Having said that, you're the client, right? And anytime you're the client, you have power. And what I mean by power, I mean the power to say, the way our conversations go in these consultations, I'm struggling with that, right? And what I'd like to hear is A, B, C, and D. You have to tell them they can't read your mind, right? Mm. So if you could structure the conversation with what you need from them, what do you want that you're not getting? And that's something I ask a lot in Win Like a Girl. What is it you need that you're not getting, right? Because people get frustrated and they haven't verbalized what they need that they're not getting, right? So your job is to be clear on what you need to be a happy client. Their job is to accommodate you the best they can. Now, you may never feel like you're dealing with the Dalai Lama on some of these people, but if you help them, that's, I think, a better approach, right? The most successful way. The other thing you can ask for, and this is hard to do, when you feel you're not being heard, is to say, and this is where you take full ownership for all your problems. Okay, this just works better if you don't blame them. For example, you might say, you know what, I have a terrible time communicating. I think I'm not a very good communicator. So can you tell me, based on our conversation we've just had, what you heard me say? And they read it back to you, okay? And you'll get a sense if they missed it, I know I've left at medical appointments where they know I said something they didn't get because they were thinking. And when thinkers are thinking, they are not hearing you. They can't do both. Again, this is where your brain science comes in. They can't be in both places. So if you ask them to give you what's called a read back in the military world, you read back to me what you heard so that we're on the same page, right? You don't say it like that, but you say, I don't communicate very well. And can you hear what you read back, tell me what you just heard me say, right? And maybe you have notes so that you make sure you do communicate to the best of your ability. I often go into with notes to my medical appointments so that I say what I don't forget something, right? So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, that does. That's really good advice.
And in terms of confidence, this is where I think taking the Strength Finder for anybody that's struggling, whether it's a parent, whether it's a child that's got CF, these are positive traits, and they can be your tools to overcome obstacles of any kind. So it's very affirming. It's focusing on what their natural patterns of greatness are. Let's figure out what those are, and then you use those to get what you're looking for or to overcome obstacles.
And how can they take it now, the Strength Finder? Do they go through you or just go online?
It's online. It's currently $25, which for your top 5, which is a great place to begin. And if you Google Gallup Strength Finder, it'll come right up. And then you learn, and families doing it together is transformational. You hear things about your children you didn't understand, and they don't understand about you. And I did this recently with a woman whose daughter had just graduated from high school, and she burst into tears and she said, in reading this, I realized I haven't known my daughter at all like I could have, because the daughter was such a thinker that what was going on here didn't necessarily come out of her mouth, inside of her head didn't come out of her mouth. But now that she knows that, they can have a different perspective going forward. Right?
That is beautiful. Yeah. I love that.
Ages 12, 13 and up is about the right age for that.
And we've only talked about the surface of all that you're doing. I feel like we don't even have enough here. But what else is really important that's in your book that you wanted to talk about?
Great question. And I'll tell you where I'm surprised. I knew it would be well received by coaches. I knew it would be well received by parents. But I've had kids as young as 12 read it. There's a 7-year-old who told me that it's awesome, but like a 7-year-old reading it. And your mom bought it for herself and the daughter picked it up. And, that's great. But what's fun about the young people reading it is they begin to see the art of the possible. A athlete that speaks up against a mean girl, right? The idea that you don't have to focus on the score. Your self-worth isn't connected to the score. It's connected to how you pursue any goal, right? Being a great teammate, self-leadership, accepting coaching. And it's a fictional story, but it ends with the 13 exercises, a little playbook, an activities guide to what, if families did that over the dinner table, like one a week, and if you did one thing a week outside Comfort Castle, your kids with CF, if we talked about what they were most afraid of, and then said, what is one thing we can do today, one tiny thing outside your comfort zone? I hear amazing things from young women, like a new driver that went to the car wash for the first time, okay? Had avoided it for months. And I thought she was afraid she would crash. And when I asked her, after I get this text, I went to the car wash. I'm like, yeah, I'm celebrating like it's the Olympics, right? And she said she was afraid to talk to them and give them money, right? So we got past talking to the car wash attendant and giving them money. Now you can talk the next time you need to do something to a stranger, right? Those sorts of things. So I just think everybody's journey through fear is different because what I'm afraid of, you're not, and what you're afraid of, I'm not, right? But at the end of the day, nothing good happens to you in your comfort zone, in Comfort Castle, and trouble will find you, right?
Right.
So you might as well learn how to get out of it. And the more you do that, then the more comfortable perhaps a young person is speaking about why they're different. I spoke to a superintendent of a school yesterday, and his daughter, 13, 14, got scoliosis, is going to have to wear a brace perhaps. So now what is it going to be like to be at a school where you have clothes that aren't fitting like they were, for example, right? That's a tough age for girls and for teens. But this is why trouble will find you, and you have to prepare to you're going to be okay, and your self-worth does not depend on other people's approval of you because you cannot control it anyhow. They may never approve of you, right? So don't focus on that. Focus on doing everything you can. And it's hard if somebody doesn't approve of you, but your leg won't fall off. So.
And there's so much growth in that, right? Because then you feel empowered and you feel your strength.
Right.
And then you realize how badass you really are.
You can be, absolutely.
Yeah.
Versus they have power over you because you hope they'll approve, right? You've just given them all the power. You keep your power. Your best is good enough. Who you are is good enough. I'll send you a 2-minute video about a high schooler who's been coaching younger girls on their best is good enough.
Okay, we're going to put that in the show notes. We'll put that in show notes so everyone can see that.
There's a couple videos we can give them.
Okay, yeah.
The 5 things female athletes fear most, maybe what most young women fear most, right?
Okay, let's do that.
So yeah, we'll do that.
And what do you want to do in the future? Is it to keep going with the Win Like a Girl and talking to people?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is the futuristic thing. You're like,
well, that is
where
me.
you go with this, girl? Oh, if I only knew. I think what I'd like to do is get some training online so people could go through these exercises as groups of girls, teams, families. I think I'd like to focus some energy on that when I get the chance. And I need to do more marketing and be on wonderful shows like this. And so grateful for the interview. And I just haven't been able to with my current workload and then my little setback with my getting hit by the car.
Yeah.
So, but it's all good, right? This is all good.
Well, and I would help you because I love that kind of stuff, like the marketing. Like I will help you on that. And actually, you gave me another idea where we will end this podcast, but I'm going to end it on this note because as we were talking, you gave me this idea that I want to talk to you about doing this in the CF community, doing a webinar that would help people with cystic fibrosis with their self-esteem.
Absolutely.
Because if you get a port between your breasts, that's an issue. There are so many things when you were talking about this other girl who might have the brace on. There are so many things about how you feel with all this medical equipment on you or surgeries and scars and how you see yourself and the pain for a parent to watch it. So we'll talk, but.
Okay. I would love that. It's the same journey. The only reason I picked sports is A, I knew the data, that there was no confidence. And B, I want to work with people that are willing to make an effort, right? So, and I'm not saying your CF people wouldn't at all. They do have a reason to make an effort, right?
Right.
Versus trying to convince someone that they should work to be their best. That's where I'm not my best, right? So I'd be thrilled to do that. Absolutely.
You're incredible. And I just love you. And I think that we've got to spread more Maureen Monte around because you're so insightful and I just love what you put out into the world. I think everybody really needs you and your books and what you have to say and how you synthesize it all. And
yeah, well, thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate it. And I love you to death as well. Have always enjoyed the work we've done together. And I think if we got parents and kids reading Win Like a Girl, and I'm handing it out to boys now too, right? Because I'm like, don't pay attention to the title. Pay attention to the journey, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a missing link. We are assuming that if someone's good at something, they are confident, and that is not true.
Well, thank you for sharing your expertise. I loved it.
Thank you for having me, my friend.
The original music in this podcast is performed by Kevin Allen,
It's not complicated.
who happens to have cystic fibrosis.
We all got our worries and fears. I know it's got you frustrated, but loving you is so alright.
This has been the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast. For more information and to learn more about the Bonnell Foundation, visit our website at thebonnellfoundation.org. That's the BONNELL Foundation.org. This podcast was sponsored by Vertex Pharmaceutical, The Science of Possibility, and Viatris. It was produced by Jag and Detroit Podcasts. Follow our show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now.